My topic for today is from idea to the sustainable business, and the agenda I put it, which I believe gonna add value for all of you if you start your journey of the startup, is what is important, how everything starts. Everything starts from the idea. Even if you see this contest, if we talk about 475 ideas, and now it's only 24 of you, the finalists here, so it means that from idea to a product, a minimal viable product, it's a long journey. And usually in Silicon Valley, it's called the Valley of Death. It means that it's so easy to talk, but it's so hard to do. The idea, I always say, it's worth zero if you're not doing any action. If you do an action, then something happens. If it is just an idea, then it's still nothing. So in this part, it's called the pre-seed stage. And in general, people say that how you can get funded to make that product happen, because usually either you have university or either you have a job, so it's very hard to get the time for your startup. So they say the best financing source, it's called triple F. Triple F, it means fools, friends, and family. This is where they say you go first to get your funding. Of course, there are another types where you can get funded. This is like NCLab camp. It is different contests. There are business angels, or there are crowdfunding sites as Kickstarter or Indiegogo, where you can just describe your idea and then get funded from the source. So this is how it might start. Usually the amount you might apply is up to $20,000 US. And this is to make the prototype minimal viable product and to create the business plan. If you go through that valley of death, you actually become a startup, I would say, in that phase. And then you go for the seed funding. Seed funding, it means that you need your first money. Actually, if you are having your job, to quit that job and to start your business. So you get some more money. Usually, startups ask for 12 months for runaway. It means that you need to have enough money for 12 months to survive. So this is called the seed phase. And from the presentation and the first time you approach the venture capital or the business angels, it's probably going to take you from 4 to 6 months to get the money in your account. The amounts vary from 100,000 to 300,000. So this is the amount you probably want to request, around 300,000 US. And this is for what investors going to ask you, where you're going to spend them. So you need to have exactly calculation on month-on-the-month basis, how you're going to be spending that money. On marketing, on salaries, on the development, on hiring new people. So you need to have a clear action plan behind how you're going to spend that money. And usually business is still not profitable. Investors are not seeking you to make the profit. Usually they want to see if your product adds value for the customer, if the customers enjoy it, love it, and if you really understand how you're going to make money afterwards. So this is also for the monetization test, I call it, or go-to-market plans. So you just try different models during that phase, trying to understand how you can make money out of it. And if you succeed, because most here, I would say, survive 2 out of 100. So we all understand that it's going to be a lot of bad stories, meaning that it's going to be a lot of ideas, but till minimal viable product, we're going to have only 2. In this phase, it's 1 out of 10. So it means that investor understands that if he's going to put money into you, he expects that only 1 from 10 will survive. So all of you need to be ready and striving to be that one, but it means that you can fail, and the culture of failure is very important. That's why we also started that mobile laboratory network in Lithuania to teach the culture of failure. So meaning that in university, you can do several labs and fail, and it's not costly. Because when you start the job, it's very hard for you to go from the comfort zone. And if you pass through that, usually there is more funds who are standing in line and trying to give you the Series A, which usually is for the monetization, business expansion, and sales and marketing. So it means that the product already recognized, and you just need to give the money for the startup to make sure it can scale as fast as possible in as many countries as possible. So usually in those between 3 and 5 years somewhere in the curve, it becomes a break-even. It means that investments which are invested gets paid back, and the startup starts showing profit. And then it starts showing profit, it comes another series, and then you can get millions. And even if we see about the latest Uber, the Series E, they just got 1.2 billion US dollars in terms of funding. So it starts even in the world calculating billions, not millions. So this is the way how that all starts. So it means that you guys who made the finalist, you're somewhere here. The ones who are going to finish the minimal viable product, you're going to be somewhere here. So you will be ready for the next journey. It's going to be really interesting, enjoying. So it is important, strive for the result, but enjoy the journey, because it's really, really fun. If we move further, I want to explain one thing, because usually then I face the startups, they all say, but if we get the investment, we share the company shares. And the further you go, the less shares you have. So I try to put on the map that at the very beginning, your company valuation is actually 0. Because, you know, if nobody invests, if you don't do revenues, so it's nothing. So you have 100% of nothing, of some app which do not generate money. So it's 0, the valuation. Then you go to the investor, and the usual scheme is that, and you are lucky, and you get the seed funding of 200,000. I just want to show you what does it mean for you, because investor usually what it's going to be. It's not seen. The seed fund will take around 20% of your business at the very beginning. They'll request so much shares to get. They also will request you to put ESOP. It means that it is an employee stock option pool to form, to make these stocks are available for the board advisors and for the future team. So if you miss some role in your team, you can hire, and you can always get better people if you pay in-line salary with the market average, plus you add them a stock option. So 30% you're going to lose, but you're still going to be keeping the control of 70%, which makes the valuation with that investment of for 20%, 200,000 euro, it makes your asset 700,000 US dollars. So it means you became, as a founders, almost a millionaires. If you go further, in the next phase, in the Series A, after 12 to 24 months, it's going to happen the same. You're going to need to give up another 20%, and the rest will dilute. It means that you will lose your shares again. So if ESOP is still there, if the Series A fund is still, they already made money. If another investor comes in, they already made money. Because here, if you see, they invested 200,000. And here, their stock value, if somebody invests 1.5 million, it became 1.5 million already. And yours became 4.2 million. So it means that then each next phase you go, the further you go, you have on your bookkeeping, you have became the millionaires. If the team, usually the co-founders, is from 3 to 5 people, each of you already became the millionaires. Of course, it's yet on the paper only, but then you're going to exit it. If you're going to sell your business, you're going to become them. So this is very important to understand that each time you have a smaller and smaller part of the pie. And probably in the next round, you will not have any more control. But you need to learn not to worry about it. Because investor who comes, he has the same targets as you. Investor understands that only you and founders have the biggest understanding of what does that product means. So they don't want to replace. Nobody wants to replace. Usually, this is one of the biggest worries for the startup. If you even think about the Google, they brought Eric Schmidt as the CEO of Google just because they understood that the co-founders can focus on the product development, and the one who understands the management and how to expand business just takes the role of CEO. So this is very important to understand, so don't get tagged to the roles or to the positions. Think about that the team needs to be constructed to make you as a team stronger. This is very important to understand. Everyone's so quiet. Did I manage to explain behind? You guys understand that? Or I seem from another world? Okay, seems like it is. Good. Anyways, I want to give you one thing which is really important to understand. Startup or not to startup. What I mean about that? I really was in both shoes. So I just put it some, pluses and minuses just for you to consider. What does it mean, startup? It's unlimited opportunities. It means you want to start, especially where you are now in mobile, you can be anywhere. Your app is flying in Nepal, you just go to India, or you just go to whatever country you want to, because the App Store account you actually paid once. In Google Play it's $25, I think in Apple it's $99. This is the investment you need, and then you just scale. It's simple as that. You control everything. So it means you control, you want to walk, you walk. You want to go to rest, to go to vacations, you go. So you don't need to ask anyone. You just do it. This is a fast learning journey, I call it. Aaron, the CEO of Twitter, provided a very good quote, and I see it on myself. Then I put my kids to bed. I go to work for another 2.5 hours, usually. Is that law of the startup physics. The amount of work you will always expand to 1:30 a.m. So this is when you really think that you need to get up at 6 or 7. You say, probably 5 hours of sleep would be good to make me productive next day. And then you go to sleep. How many of you live that life? Can you raise the hand? Oh, many. Okay. So we're in the right audience. Okay. Good. And then employee, just to compare about those, pluses of that. Your work starts from 9, or I don't know what is coming in Nepal, or 8, and it finishes at 6. That's it. You just close the door, you finished. Yeah? You're with your family, with your friends. You don't think about the job. It's specialized focus. If you're a certain specialist, you just do that job. Because for another job, there is another specialist. For another job, it is another specialist. For another area of functions, it's another department. So you just do your job. That's it. You don't need to take care about other departments' functions, because they do have their own KPIs, they do have their own scorecards, they do have their own targets, so you don't care. It's good to cooperate, but in general, you need to focus on the job you do. You need to be a good colleague. It's kind of little responsibility, I call it. You just have something, you know your own targets, you just do them. That's it. If you want to be exceptional better, you do a little bit more. You take, an extra step, you do an extra mile, then you're going to be probably promoted. But this is simple as that. There is almost no stress. And there is always stress. There is always short of money. There is always short of time. This is from the stress point of view. If you don't like stress, don't go to startup, because it's going to be a lot of that. It's going to be a lot of it. So you need to deal with it. There are a lot of courses. You just need to learn to deal with the stress, and you'll be okay. The minus of that it is grand responsibility. What I mean by that? If you hired a lot of people, you have money, you are responsible not only for yourself, for founders, you're responsible for people. If you started the startup an app and it's already used by 100,000 customers, if you do something wrong in there, 100,000 customers will be unhappy. So we become responsible for them as well. So the more you grow, the responsibility expands. So you need to take care about everything. It's multitasking, multifunctions. As I said, your agenda, you do everything. You do marketing, you go talk with IT team, you think about next features, you need to do accounting, you do presentations, you approach venture capital, you present to them, you have negotiations. You need to know everything. And it's total devotion. So when you're in startup, you're totally in it, with all your soul, with all yourself. And employee, they're not good things. It's probably salary cap. You know that position in the market worth certain market average. So probably it will be very hard to get more than the market average. It's just the way it is. So there is a cap. You're always in control, unless you're in the managerial position, but still probably somebody controls you. The shareholders controls you. So in general, there is always control is in present. And there, you control yourself. And there is always limitations and restrictions. If you had some idea in mind that, okay, you know, I want to expand somewhere, but your business is here, then that idea you keep for yourself, because nobody wants to listen to it. It's just the way it is, because the company is doing that business. And of course, there are innovative company who listens and who expands, but it's still very hard. So you have limitations. So before you either will go that journey or not, you really need to think. To summarize, I would say there is a quick learning with a lot of stress. And here is the sustainable, simple, not stressful life. So for you to choose which way to go. And my 2 cents is just, if you go for the startup, try it for you what you desire, but do what you know best. So if you are in marketing, don't try to start programming. Or if you do programming, better probably not to participate in negotiations with the venture capital. So it's good to learn, but the best is to focus and just to be better and better each day in what you do. And now I'll go for, I call it, top 10 elements of sustainable and attractive companies. This is the things you're going to find. Then you're going to be doing pitches for the investors. What is important for them? And going slide by slide, I'll try to explain why it is important. First thing, what is important for the investor is the clarity of purpose. It means that if you are able to summarize what your app or what your startup does in one single sentence or in few sentences on the other side of the business card, then they say, you probably understand what you do. If we take Coca-Cola, yeah, it's delicious and refreshing, and it's all set. You can read the rest, yeah, but it's all fit in next side of the business card. So then you'll be thinking about your app. You need to know that if somebody asks you, it's called elevator pitch. If somebody asks you, okay, how you do? So what your startup or what your app does? And if you start talking about, oh, it has so many features and it can, fly almost and it can do anything, no, no, no. You need to have in the very clear manner to say what it does. So it is very important. So then you'll be thinking about your pitches today, tomorrow, and especially after 2 days in the finals. Think about it. It's really, really important. The second thing, it's large markets. Why large markets? From investor perspective, they always think in that way. Is that if I'm in the big market, I can allow myself to play with the profit margins, to play with the offerings, to play with anything. If the market is small, those different plays and those different games, if you fail, there is no second chance for you to come back. So if you targeted almost all micro segments with the different offerings and you failed, you just gone. In the big markets, it's total opposite. It means it is so big, you can go city by city. You can micro segment. You can start with some small pilot with, I don't know, with men or with women, with children, or with some just a very up to 10 years and stuff like that. You segment in the US, for example, you are creating the game and you're segmenting, I don't know, the kids from 7 to 10, and it's already some million customers. And if you do that, for example, in Lithuania, you're going to end up with 60,000. Then you think about how many of them would use your app or how many of them have smartphones, you're going to end up with 30,000. Then you think how many of them will download your app, you end up with 15,000. Then you say, okay, it's times $5 per app, and you end up with 75,000, and you say, it's a cap. It's a maximum you can make. Does it worth invest 200,000? The answer is no. Yeah? So it's simple as that. So do some calculations, and then you think about going to the markets. Think about the ones, look in the researches. This is what good, that the biggest growing countries are from Eurasia and Africa. So it means the next big countries and opportunities is going to be here. So you are really lucky that you are here in this audience because you have a big opportunity. So just, employ the ambition and just conquer those markets which are going to be growing. And also important for you to understand, there is a report sites like Distimo and others, for you to understand that dig a little bit before you do. I always say, try to see what competitors did. Try to find the key differentiation factors, because in the apps market, a lot of things are created. So have the mentality of doing better than them. And then you look at those, think about how many of them, which strategy even to consider. Should you go for the paid app, or should you go for the freemium, or should you do both, meaning to start in the free, as a free, your app distribution, but at the same time thinking about maybe with some feature, you also put that app as the paid app. So those researches and thinking about which strategy to take, even which features to implement, you need to drill down deep a little bit more to understand in which countries, what kind of habits, what kind of apps people pay, and always try to be better than the rest in your category. Otherwise, then there are millions of apps in an app store. It is very hard for people to find themselves an answer, why should I buy or download your app? Because it's so many apps already. And I think this is a very good that Ansel is taking that journey with the App Camp and with you guys, because operator has so big and so much strength to communicate to their customer what is important. So I believe you're going to have, moving forward, a very good cooperation with Ansel. So don't lose that connection with those people which are organizing and which are doing this event together with you, because you're going to have a lot of opportunities moving forward. Think about the researches, which countries, the habits, how many apps they usually download. This is very important to understand the competition level of the customer in his phone, because you're competing also between another apps on my phone in terms of my time, because we all have a limited time, 24 hours per day, and it means that even if I look at my phone 150 times per day, this is the statistics, it's still, I probably will go to the most often used apps. So you need to make your app communicate with me to make sure that I dedicate my time for your app. So this is very important, so don't skip that. Large markets, do some research. Another thing where venture capital addresses is that rich customers. What does it mean? If you think about the Apple strategy, they're so expensive with such a big extra margin. They address the rich customers. They know that the people who have money, they don't calculate, cents. They just buy things. If they like, if it is best, they just buy. The difference, of course, and the biggest opportunity of the market is that where the mass consumption is. But you need to understand that if you go, for example, as we go with Mobile Free Nigeria, and we understand that it's 170 million customers, it's a huge market. But then you micro-segment it, you see that 120 live with less than $100 per month. So it means that if an app needs a data, and the data costs in an operator is few dollars per month, it means that they're not going to use it. So on the one side, you see it's a very nice looking product exactly for that segment, but those 120 million will not use. You need to understand that, yes, GDP is growing more than 20%, so yes, they will start using in 3 years, but now they will not use, just because they don't have money. So you always need to understand that your app and the cost involved with that, or either you live from advertising, if it is paid app, you need to understand how much money customer has in his pocket, the average pocket, and can he afford himself to have your product. So you always need to put yourself in the shoes of the customer, and you always need to understand, and statistics usually you can extract very fast to understand your targeted segment and understanding how much money he has. And of course, as I said, if it is possible that you address your startup for the customers who have money, you're going to make money faster. I'll maybe extrapolate a little bit in here. There is two types of startups, I always say. The ones who serve demand, it means that people already have some demand, and another one who creates a demand. So it means that with an app, you do something really breakthrough. And I'll go to that in just 2 slides. Focus. Focus, it's the same as number 1 was the clarity on purpose, is that customers only buy the simple product and the singular value proposition. The harder it becomes, the more complex to explain for the customer, the much more harder for them to make the choice to buy your product. This is a little bit more simple about apps, but even you need to, then you do the app description to convince customer to pay, or to buy your app, or to download the app. It needs to be written not from the functional point of view, what they're going to find it, but it needs to be written from the value perspective point of view, how I'm going to use it on my daily life, that app. What's the value for me of it? So the Steve Jobs said that that's been one of my mantras, focus and simplicity. Simple can be harder than a complex. You have to work hard to get your thinking clean and make it simple. But it's worth. This is also about focus. So don't try to do too many features in an app. If you think about your app, try to think that if somebody asks you what 3 most important things your app does, you need to know those 3 things straight away. And probably the rest of the functions, they're not important. So you even need to consider just dropping them off. At least in the minimal viable product, you can drop them off. Painkillers. So this is about serving demand and creating demand. So there is always 2 types of how you can create a product. One is you think about what people does on the daily life and what creates pain. We all understand then you are feeling so bad, so you go and take medicine. And you don't have any options. You first try to survive without them. Of course, maybe Ayurveda is important, but it's still a natural medicine. So you just go because you're ill. So this is the same about the product. If products serve certain pains, if the customer really have the pain, so it's much easier to get that product on the market. It's much harder and requires much more money if there is no demand. So you need to create it. You need first to explain to the customer the value of your product and then to sell it. The selling process is much harder and much longer and much money required. So always think in which category you fall. Because if you fall, your startup falls in the category, you just solving pain, you're just going to be rising faster. And you also, then you talk to the investor, you can stress that because you solve the real pain of customers. And if you create a demand, you need to understand, we do buy things, then we really have no other choice. If I'm hungry, I'm going to go and get some food. But if I'm not hungry, I'll not buy anything. Or maybe I have too much money, so I'll buy it and maybe give something away. But in general, you are not going to do anything. The same stands for a startup. So think about it. Where you fall, and does your app solve the problem? And of course, think differently. So you all need to understand that it is very important, and I always say, your app which you are creating, if you'll take around in the App Store, you're probably going to find some similar ones. If you think about competition more broadly, you're going to find an apps or not an apps, the proposition value, physical ones, you're going to find in the internet. So you are competing with all of them. It's not only with another apps. But even if you're competing with another apps, you need to consider, does my app have something better than others? If it doesn't, so you need to understand that from the customer eyes, if I'm going to download few, I'm going to leave on my phone only probably one, which are the best. So think about it. If you're not the best, then it's going to be very hard for you. So this is called KDF, or key differentiation factors. It's also one of the questions you're going to be getting from investors. Good, 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 very nice concept. You okay, you're addressing very nice, big markets, the rich customers, seems everything fine. So how you're different from the competitor? And if you don't have that answer, you have a big minus for your startup. So think about it and have that answer at the front. Team DNA. In the investors, it said that high-level people attract a level team. So it means if you are best, you think about it, it psychologically goes like that. The best people usually want to work with the best people. If it is average, he's gonna hire a little bit more average, because I don't want to have somebody better than me, because he's gonna replace me, and I'm a little bit afraid of that. And the A-level people who has the competence, they don't afraid of anything, because they know that they're gonna find job on the next day. So if I'm gonna be replaced, no problem, in a week I'm gonna have another job. And this is the difference. So try always to be on the top of the Olympus. Try always to be the A-level people, or attract in your startup A-level people, because they're gonna have a network with another A-level people, and you're just gonna be climbing faster. It means those A-level people have maybe 15 years experience, 20 years experience. So the things you're gonna be doing first time in your life, those people can mentor you, and you will do probably 5 times or 10 times faster. So you can scale it faster. Because if you're young, most of the things you want to try, and we have a saying in Lithuania that smart people learn from other mistakes. Stupid people don't learn from their own mistakes. So be the smart people who learn not from your own mistakes, but learn from other people's mistakes. Agility. It means that you are startup. So you can change the direction. You go with one product, with one concept, you try it, you see it doesn't work, but you find another opportunity, you fast just make another route, and you do it a little bit differently. You change your design, you try it again, you see how the customer reacts, they don't like it, you try it again differently. This is what cannot afford any big company. Then I joined the Swedbank. We were acquiring another big bank, and we were launching the new features on the weekly basis, the deposit, the SMS payments, the mobile alerts, probably 2-3 weeks, and it's new feature. But we had just 10,000 of customers. Then it became hundreds of thousands and millions. The product implementation life cycle becomes 3-6 months for new feature, because you need to align with another products, with another communication, with the product roadmap, with IT, with testing team, and it becomes just too complex. And there is nothing bad about it, just then you become big, you cannot allow yourself to fail, so you have so much controls installed in the organization, which you don't have when you're small. So agility is that be faster, because other companies, they cannot catch you if you are fast enough. But if you will fall asleep, somebody will. In technology, it's said that even the biggest companies are 3 years till their bankruptcy, because technology is changing so fast. Take a look in the Nokia, yeah? Or BlackBerry. It just, the world, company who everybody wants that, and in a couple of years, nobody talks about it. This is the situation. So it changes so fast. So it's in the small startups, they say that 3-6 months, and anyone can copy you. And even it's more easy, because they already see what is done differently than you was doing it first time. Fragility. What does it mean? It means that investor wants to give you small money and to see that you spend responsibly. What does it mean? Some of the founders, they get money and they go and buy iPhone 6, or they just buy the new car because they never could afford it. Now they're CEOs of the successful startup who just got funded, so I can afford myself to drive a new car and have the best phone. So this is not what investors would like to see. They want to see that you spend really wisely money for your startup. So fragility is really important. And last, from the 10th, it's inferno. Inferno, it means that you start small, but the energy level starts rising. It rises, And then you need to be like a devil. You just need to, just put on fire everything. So the investor wants to see that energy in you. They want to see that you really can conquer the world. If your ambition level is like, okay, I will do that, market, and this is probably not the one with what I would like to deal. You need to be with the full of energy, making sure that you can conquer. So he needs to understand that in a year, he will not need to replace you as a CEO or as a CTO. Because if you're a developer and you're probably going to be the future CTO of the company, you need to understand what does it mean, the role of CTO. You need to understand what does it mean, managerial role of another developers. Because if you're not learning fast enough, you're going to get the CTO on the top of you. And you're going to be feeling really bad that you're a founder, but you have a manager above you who controls your work. So you need to learn fast, and you need to know that. And just a couple slides before I'm going to finish. What are the investors' targets? Investors' targets are very simple. First and the biggest one is just to get profit. That's why I said the math usually in those phases that they want to get a very big return. It's much more than on deposits. But you need to understand that if I am putting the money in that seed phase and one of them survive, so it makes the annual interest rate of 6% only. I'm lucky if I do a very good selection, but if I'm not doing a good selection of startups, it means that on average, I'm investing 10 and I'm gonna get 6% interest rate only because 9 of them gonna fail. So I expect from that one successful to get all those 9 fails paid me back. Another one, which is very important, is capital preservation. For some companies, it's not important to make more money, but then you have billions or millions, you just want to make sure that you invest, you diversify assets, you go to some stocks, you go to some real estate, lands, factories, and you say, okay, technology is something new, what is emerging, let's do some investments in here, let's play, let's see how it evolves. So some investors just diversify to make sure that they keep the nominal growth and they avoid inflation. So they just to preserve their capital. The third one is synergies. It means that if I have some company, let's take an example, agriculture. If I do some business and I have a lot of salesmen around and I see somebody's doing an app for those salesmen to make their work more efficiently, I think, it's a nice investment. Right now, they're using, just piece of paper going with some brochures, and you have a great app. So I say, I would rather invest in you because I believe I have a synergy with my main company, and you're just going to extend my offering. And it's good. So they do that. And the last, which I already talked, so I'm not going to come back to it, it's about self-actualization. Some of the people in the mid-age, they just want to share what they gained, and they say just, I'm okay to share with somebody, the youth, I like you, I like your energy, I like your team. So they just do that without any big requirements on return. It's going to be happy if it's going to be there, but in general, if they feel that you can also help their ideas to make to the reality through your hands, they're feeling also good. Because they say, always had similar idea, I never did it, but now I see through you, I can actualize myself. And how to talk to an investor. So the pitch have 4 pillars. Is you need to be well structured about the product. As I said, those main features, the single value proposition, does it kill the pain? Do you have the product roadmap? The market, are you addressing billion-dollar market? Are you addressing small market? The team, who is in your team? Do you have good advisors? Are you full staffed? You're not missing any role? And of course, finance. It means how you're going to make money out of it. What is the business model behind? How I'm going to get my investment back? So those are 4 essential parts of the pitch. And a few last remarks for you is that then you go to the investor, be prepared. So don't bring them kind of not finished work. If you do some pitch, show to your colleague. Show to him and get a feedback. Would he invest? Does everything clear for him? If it doesn't clear for your colleague, how it can be clear for the investor? So just Google a little bit about the best pitches, about one-pager, how does it look, and you're gonna find a lot of them. It's one-page pitch or just, you know, the best pitch presentations. You're gonna find it. Videos, you're gonna find presentations. Just learn from best and do the same and do a little bit better. And then talk with investors in their language. It means, you know, if he gonna ask, what is your traction? What is your LTV? What is your CAC? And you just, So just learn those definitions. Because if he asks and he doesn't seem an answer, he says, it's like, you know, like marriage. Because the investor comes with you as a partner, as a marriage. If we both talk in different languages, I say, aš myliu tave, and you say, what does that mean? And that means I love you, but it's in Lithuanian. So it's probably gonna have a hard long-term conversation. For short-term, we can have some relations, but it doesn't go in the long term. This is very important. Provide numbers, researches, so proof if you say I'm gonna address that market. So just tell about your assumptions, how you think, why you're gonna be successful, where you're gonna invest money. So talk number language. Investors and investment, it's a lot about numbers. So you need to talk in the numbers and have some proof from some researches and other things. And just don't expect fast results. Usually it is important that ecosystem of those business angels, venture capital, seed companies, it's in place in the market. In Lithuania, it just started 2 years ago. So it's just starting. In probably the best book is Startup Nation. It's about the story of Israel. So in Lithuania, it started then some senior guys from the US arrived, and they gave that Startup Nation book translated, and they gave to the whole Prime Minister cabinet to read it. And this is how it started. So it's a simple story. Then the book of Startup Nation changed the way innovation comes to Lithuania. And I think it's also very important for Nepal to start that journey, because you already started. It's just ambition level, how far Ansel and other partners will take it further. Because in Silicon Valley, usually it says it takes around 4 months to get funded. In Europe, it's around 6 months. So it is a long journey. So don't expect that if you're going to send a lot of pitches, presentations, some of the investors would not reply. So think about how you can approach through some network, through maybe LinkedIn connections, and to do it privately. How to differentiate how your email looks like. Does it differentiate from another email he gets? If you send an email, it's not enough. You need to call him. You need to prepare the short-minute introduction. You need to say that I can come and do it, you know, physically for you. So try to be different. And this is a long process, so it's not an easy. Yeah, and thank you.